feed and what have you.
Right, that's gone live. And it's recording.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the April meeting of the full council. We are April, aren't we? Before I go any further, yes. Just to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded and it is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel. So hi to everyone that's watching this either live or later on in a few weeks' time. Can I have apologies for absence, please, Sarah?
Yes, Chair. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Mrs Grace Meehan. And if I can just certify the other councillors that are present, please, for the benefit of the record. So we have councillors Mrs Hooks, Paul Willis, Tom Agata, Russell Davis, Mike Eldred, Councillor Mrs Celia Merton, Trevor Rippingale, Mrs Dawn Picton and Mrs Karen Spencer.
Perfect, thank you. And councillors, are there any declarations of interest for tonight's meeting, please? Councillor Agata.
My usual for providing the IT and communication services to the council.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Sorry, I was trying to find one. Yes, mine is 20010.
Thank you. And Councillor Merton.
I've got two. One is 21/010 Waste and Minerals, and the other one is 21011.1, which is Broadfields Farm and Broadfields Bungalow.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, that's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, can we consider the minutes from the previous meeting held on the 1st of March, which was an awfully long time ago? I don't think we can actually go any further apart in meetings than what we actually have done in this calendar month. So can I have a proposer and a seconder? So no comments on the minutes. Councillor Eldred and Councillor Willis. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to the public forum. We actually don't have any members of the public at the public forum, so we'll move straight on to the district and county councillor reports. If we go district first, Councillor Eusden, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Not much this week, as you'll be pleased to hear, I'm sure. There's only one local issue that I'm still dealing with from a resident, and that's regarding repairs to his East Light home and subsequent decorations. We've moved from we're not doing anything to East Light agreeing to do all the repairs necessary. Now they're digging their heels in over subsequent redecorations. So I'm trying to persuade them of the error of their ways, but they're proving to be difficult. So I'm starting to look now to see if there are charities around who will help decorate for disabled people. But other than that, that's the only village issue that I'm currently dealing with in relation to residents. I just really wanted to mention the verge cutting trial that happened last year, and I'm sure you've all seen is now going ahead district wide for this coming season. So I'm hoping that meets with approval, but of course there will be areas where vegetation will need to be cleared to keep road signs and safety in check. But hopefully the wildflowers will appreciate the break, and we'll see. I think there'll be a discussion and opportunity for consultation at the end of the season to see what issues, if any, have come up, and that would help to determine the way forward going on to next year. We're now in Purda. due to the Essex County Council elections and some by-elections. So most councillors are out helping county council candidates of whichever party. There's also a lot of work going on trying to determine how we continue to hold meetings post 7th of May, because obviously the government have decided not to extend the emergency legislation, as far as I know, unless that's changed. So that's going on. It looks like we may have to go back to meetings in person, but still maintain social distancing, which could be interesting in some of the buildings and for some meetings.
Definitely.
Our environmental health officers are out helping to advise shops, etc., post reopening to make sure that they don't fall foul of regulations. And I've got a briefing meeting next week on the Rayne Heritage Trail.
Yeah,
So
we
I
have
shall-
it next week as well.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to hear what that's about. I'm not sure why we didn't have a joint one, but
Well, you're
It
more than
would-
welcome. We're
well,
as is planned for for next Tuesday evening, which actually I double booked the parish council with, because we've got a communications and data committee
Well, I think
meeting,
mine's-
but we've added it to that agenda. So
right, well, I think mine's
have no
Tuesday
issue.
afternoon.
Okay.
I think it's Tuesday afternoon. I'm not really sure why, but I thought, well, they obviously want it separate, so I'm quite happy to go along with that.
I did offer them this parish council meeting, but they didn't want it broadcast out in the public domain, as so obviously our meetings are live streamed, so they didn't want it out in the public domain just yet. So
okay, well I'll sit and listen to what they have to say, and it'll be interesting to see what they've done so far.
Definitely.
And where they're hoping to go with it. So I'm looking forward to that. And the only other thing I wanted to raise was I had an email from Josh Meehan on a couple of issues around the village that he wanted to promote for possibly for financial support from the Council of Community Grant, which I replied to his email, but I haven't heard anything since. And I did copy Sarah on my reply, but I've heard nothing more from Josh. So I don't know whether that is still on the go, or whether he's now no longer interested, or what it is. But the issues were parking cones and funding for signage to the Flitch Way. And the parking cones, I asked the question whether they were going to be used on the public highway, because if they are, then they have to be a regulation size, weight, etc. And you have to have permission from county highways to put them out and take them back. And apparently you have to have training on how to put them out and take them back each time you want to put them out. So that kind of stopped it a bit. But if they're going to go on private land, of course, you can have any colour, size, shape you want, and you can put them out when you want. So I'm not really sure where that's going, but I've not heard anything from him. So I shall wait and see if he comes back to me. But I don't know.
Sarah has some information, don't you, Sarah?
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Houston. Mr. Meehan was hoping to be at the meeting tonight, but unfortunately he's been tied up with some business matters. So I know it was something that he still wished to raise in the public forum, but he's hoping to attend the May meeting to follow up with that. So he may get back in touch with you in the meantime, but otherwise it will be raised, I think, at the May meeting in the public forum.
Yeah, well, that'll be fine, because then that fits in well with the elections will all be over, and we'll be able to just move along, I think. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's everything from me, unless you have anything for me.
Councillor Euston, with regard to the signage, I have spoken to Mr. Meehan separately, because you may remember at the January or February meeting, I again raised the subject of the vandalised gates and the signage, which is just on the floor. It's all rotten. And was told, you know, it's still being looked at by Essex County Council. I wonder if it's that issue that he's referring to as well, because it just looks a disgrace around there. It looks run down and tired.
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think he was asking to have some directional information put on existing signs or putting up new signs. Well, if it's new signs, we have to know obviously where they're going to go and whether the landowner gives permission for them, and also what the design's going to be and what the cost is going to be. And I think, you know, you'll find that the cost of signage is quite high. And if it's on the existing signs that belong to, well, the Flitch Way, I believe the Flitch Way actually belongs to Essex County Council. So you would need permission from Essex County Council, I would think, to put any information on their signs. So it's, you know, it's best if he's here.
Yeah, yes, it may be
at the next meeting, then we can clear up exactly where it is. Then we'll know which way to be going.
Definitely. Any other questions for Councillor Euston? I think it's actually been quite quiet. Although it's been quite a long month, it's actually been reasonably quite quiet month, really. So let's hope it stays that way. And obviously we'll see what happens, you know, with the further unlocking and easing of restrictions, you know, deals with everything. So yeah, but thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to Councillor Butland. Councillors, you'll be aware that Councillor Butland is in Purdah, so he can't actually talk too much about what he actually has done for us in recent times. But Councillor Butland.
Yes, I will I am allowed just to do normal business. I need to emphasise that. Just on the question of meetings, there is a hearing in the High Court on Wednesday, the 21st of April, which is a case taken by Hertfordshire County Council, supported by Association of Council Lawyers, which will try and persuade the court that actually no change to legislation is required. The interpretation of the current thing of place could be interpreted in a different way. Now, clearly, if that is successful, that will mean that we will be able to continue, all councils will be able to continue to meet in this way until such time, past the 6th of May. I can just tell you what we are going to do at Braintree District Council for our council meeting in June. Clearly trying to find a space big enough for 49 members to be socially distanced. And of course, it's 2 meters all around, just not possible. So we are going to hold our meeting virtually. We will take no decisions, but we will make recommendations that the Chief Executive will then implement. Now, I have asked the monitoring officer at BDC to see whether the posts of parish clerks can or do carry the same ability to be able to do that for parishes, because then parishes could meet on this. You wouldn't be able to make a decision, but you could make a recommendation which, to all intents and purposes, your clerks as the BDC Chief Executive would actually carry out. So we are trying to establish ways in which we might be able to move forward. But clearly, if the court case on the 21st of April is successful, then we will all be able to continue using this way of meeting. So we'll keep you in touch.
Thank you.
So rather, we'll keep you in touch on that. Very quiet, as you say, county council wise, because we haven't had a meeting for some time. This morning, I did, as I came along, it's interesting because I thought I was coming along Pod's Lane, where there was a settee, which had just been, I'm just amazed. Someone must have had a vehicle to get all the way out to the middle of nowhere to dump a settee on the side of the verge. Anyway, coming back, as I was coming back through there, just before 1 o'clock, I reported it to Paul Partridge. By 3 o'clock, it had been picked up and gone. I think it was excellent by the clean team there. But it did raise, and some of you will see on the Rayne, not on the parish council, but on the community page, an interesting discussion as to whether it's Pod's Lane or Shalford Road. And one gentleman is taking it up with Google because he thinks it should be called Shalford Road. It's about a mile out of Duck End, I want to say village, I don't mean village.
Duck End Green.
Yeah, Duck End Green, that's right, the right word. It's about a mile out from there. When I took the photo with my camera, it came up as Pod's Lane, but no, it is Shalford. So, but it may seem a minor matter, but clearly if there was an accident on that area and someone wanted to get emergency vehicles there, useful to know exactly where it is. So that was something I wasn't expecting. But other than that, if there are any questions, fine.
I do believe the settee actually had been logged with BDC during last week because it had been there since about Wednesday or Thursday, we believe. So I think
it wasn't logged.
Apparently someone said they had logged it, but okay.
Anyway, it's now gone. So
that's the main thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Councillor Davis?
Yeah, just to note that that is definitely Shalford Road. And I've also reported that with Google today. I've lived on Shalford Road for 11 years, and the site where that was dumped is about 200 metres from my house. Google did an upgrade about 6 years ago, and when they did that, they relabelled Shalford Road as Pod's Lane, and I reported it then, and it never got changed, but somebody else has reported it today, and I have done as well. Shalford Road actually goes all the way from the Swan Pub right to the very end of the road, which is about 3.5 miles up. So Google is definitely wrong, and yeah, thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah, if I could just add, in my other role, obviously I deal with road names quite a lot, and you can't always trust Google or Ordnance Survey even to some extent as well. So just because it's on Google doesn't mean that it's true, and unfortunately they don't always follow up these reports of incorrect road names. But I believe other councillors, Councillor Merton perhaps has used 3 words as a description for somewhere. If you're not sure whereabouts you are, you can type that into your phone, 3 words, and it comes up with a location, which is very useful if you don't know where you are.
Good for reporting things like fly tipping.
Councillor Willis?
Yes, I'd just like to ask Councillor Butland about the traffic signs that seem to have been accumulated around Rayne for some months now. The Perkins garage issue, for the time being, is resolved, I think. Well, it's not resolved, but there's no flood at the moment. Unfortunately, the road closed signs and everything else, and cones and what have you, have been left there for a considerable amount of time. I just wonder how we get the contractors to take the things away.
If only Rayne was the only place. I've been all the way through Great Notley and taken all the signs and placed them face down, because we no longer, for the last 6 weeks, not had any diversions, etc. It is something I've written in about, but at the moment there's a whole load of them. I had a gentleman at Wethersfield who collected them all and had a garage full of them, and eventually I managed to get a lorry to go out and pick them all up. I mean, they must cost a few bob.
Well, this is the point exactly. I think Roger Jiggins used to collect them all up with his tractor and tower at one time. But
yeah.
You know, I mean, there is a considerable amount of waste. That's the first thing. But it's not just the fact that they're face down and that. It's just, you know, we work hard to try and maintain the village and make it look nice, and then we get all this scrap metal lying everywhere. And it's everywhere, literally everywhere. So I don't know. I think it's something the county council should really try and do better on, quite frankly. Taxpayers' money, all that I could say.
Most of it tends to be utilities, not all, I have to say, quite a bit utilities. But I'm going to write in again about round here, so I'll add that at Rayne as well.
Thank you very much.
And I see Councillor Merton said, I think there's one outside her.
There is. Yep.
Yeah.
There's a few around the village.
There's quite a
Like you
few.
say,
actually.
there's a few around everywhere, to be fair. So
I don't know how much they're worth scrap metal wise.
Oh.
might have some visitors come and take them then.
Well, I
No,
suppose.
presumably not a lot, otherwise they'd have gone by now, I reckon. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
It's a bit ironic when you want something to disappear, it doesn't.
It never
When you
does.
don't want it to disappear, it does.
Yes.
Oh. Any further questions?
Could I ask either of the councillors? I'm not sure who
Yeah.
it's more applicable to. But any improvements being planned for Braintree Town Centre? I know the other contractors left, but what's the current state of play regarding recommencing the work?
Yeah, work is progressing very well. I was in there today. It's looking really good, and the new layout outside of Tesco is first class. And so, yeah, going very well. Will be finished more or less on time, which is really good news.
What about the road where the colourful slabs are, where they stopped work? Is that going to continue?
All of it will continue as was planned, but with a different contractor. I can't say anything about the original contractor because that is subject to potential legal issues. But yeah, all going ahead.
Okay, so when do we estimate it'll be completed by?
I think beginning of June.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We do have another problem, and that is not one which the council owns, and that is the question of the fountain, which has not been working for some time. And I think it should be, because I think it's a focal point in the town. And we will be having discussions with the trust that owns that to see whether we can make some arrangements to get that properly functioning, etc. Because it hasn't been for, as you will be aware, for some time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It seems a shame when when we get the high street done, that the fountain isn't working.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, at the moment, I think my biggest concern is access for pedestrians, particularly, the elderly. It's a pretty long diversion to get from one side of the street to the other.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the diversions are there till the work is complete. Yes, I can't. There's not much I can do about that. And
Yeah.
we'd like to have had the work, obviously, done, but I must be careful exactly what I say. It was not possible to continue with the original contractors.
No, but you found a new contractor, so.
Oh, yes, in fact, more than one for each of the different bits. So, it's going ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great news. Brilliant. So thank you, Councillor Houston and Councillor Butland, for attending tonight's meeting and giving your updates. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to councillor co-option. Obviously, we have a vacancy on the parish council, and we have one applicant for the vacancy with us tonight. Scott Wilsden is here. So Scott, can you just kind of tell us a bit about yourself, introduce yourself, and why you'd like to become a councillor and what you think you can bring to the council?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. I'm Scott Wilsden, for those who don't know me. I'm the landlord of the Welsh Princess. I'm a glazer by trade, so I do sort of long hours up in London. But the pub is where I want to be honest. I want to give up the long hours and get back working here. But in terms of being a councillor, it's basically, for me, it's basically about putting something back into the village that has given me so much over the years. I've been here over 20 years. I've got a lot of friends here. I've found employment from the village, even a wife. So I kind of owe the village a bit, and I feel also being at the Welsh Princess puts me in a fairly central location in the village, and we're open. Well, post-COVID, we're open all the time, so easily accessible, and I'm very approachable as well for people. So basically, I know what an important job you parish councillors do, and I'd like to be part of that to help keep Rayne as lovely a village as it is, really.
Fantastic. I mean, that's why any of us are councillors, because we all want to give something back, to the village that we love. And yes, I mean, I think to have another business owner on the council, with a slightly kind of different nuance on it is absolutely brilliant. So pubs generally do tend to be the hub of the village.
Absolutely, yeah.
Once you're open,
not long
not long. Councillors, do any of you have any questions for Scott? No. Well, obviously you've all read the application form, because it's obviously within your supporting documents for tonight. So I believe, Sarah, we have to vote still, even though we have the one applicant. So can we have a hands up for those in agreement for Mr. Wilsden to join the parish council?
Oh, you need a proposer and a seconder, please, Chair. Thank
I'm
you.
happy to propose.
I'm happy to second.
Mike Eldred, seconder, and then can we all vote? So unanimously accepted onto the parish council.
Thank you.
So do you need Scott to sign paperwork?
Yes, please.
Can I have 2 lagers, please?
Can't do that during a parish council meeting, unfortunately. Yeah, I think we need
this, don't you?
We
Yes,
do,
please.
Yes.
I'll let me just try and adjust.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Dawn had great fun doing this a couple of meetings ago, didn't you,
No.
Dawn?
Can you say that?
Yes,
Yeah, you
that's
can.
fine.
Is that all right there? Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you.
If we go down Graham's route, that it's not actually going to be a meeting, we could do whatever we liked, couldn't we?
That's not till June.
Well, in June we could plan it though, couldn't we? We could have
That's where we could go
we could have
afterwards.
a fantastic meeting.
As your clerk, I can't possibly allow that, Councillor Eldred.
Well, you know what you can do, clerk.
No, we can have the meeting and we can go to the pub afterwards.
Yay.
I think we just go to the pub, have the meeting now.
Is that right?
Not allowed. That's fine. Thank you very much.
That's perfect. And thank you and welcome to the parish council.
Thank you.
Sarah will be in contact with loads of information and stuff. Tom, on my screen, he's up there. Tom will be in touch with getting you set up on our files and email systems and all that kind of thing. So be warned for the deluge of emails that start coming. But yeah, congratulations and thank you.
Well done.
Fantastic. Okay, moving on to roads, transport and public safety. Do we have any defective street lighting and paving roads or signage to report that hasn't been reported already? Councillor Davis?
This might have already been reported, but there's a drain. I've noticed it a couple of times in the last few weeks. I know it's been reported certainly on social media pages, but there's a drain if you're going towards Rayne, go past Perkins Garage on the left-hand side, just on the verge. It's been obviously overflowing for some time. It's all green on the pavement. It's great. Obviously, we've done this work a bit further down to clear this other drain, but this one's obviously still leaking. So there's something that needs to be done about that.
That is part of the original issue.
Yeah. When Sarah and I met with Councillor Butland, when I did the PowerPoint for that meeting and the issues, we also discussed and I pointed out this drain and the water running down. So it's kind of like all encompassed in the same the same issue. But I must admit, I mean, I drive past it every day and I run past it quite a lot, and it's looking very yucky and very green and very not very nice at all. So it's definitely something that's going to be worth raising or pushing as to why that water runs out the way it does, and then it misses the drain and then runs down the road. So it's not ideal, but it has been flagged. Definitely.
Okay, all right, I just thought I'd mention it. It was looking quite disgusting when I drove past the other day.
I agree. Councillor Picton?
There is a drain. It's only one of the small ones, but on Foundry Lane, as you walk on the opposite side of the road. So you go up the straight bit, and as it comes and does the almost the T at the end, there is a small drain there that was completely missing its lid. The other day, I literally only a couple of days ago, when I went out and walked the dog that way, I noticed it and thought we could have quite easily fallen with the dog down it. So I don't know if that might be worth maybe me popping out and checking that still is that way, but we might need to do something about that.
Yeah, if you could please, that would be great. And also
Yeah,
which house number it's adjacent to.
Yeah.
'Cause if it does need reporting, then I'd need to know exactly where it is.
Yeah, I'll go out in the morning and then I'll feed back to you, Sarah, as to if it's
you.
still showing damage.
Thank you. Councillor Eusden?
Yeah, just to say on that subject, if the lid on the drain cover is completely missing, you'll find that highways will respond very, very quickly, usually within 2 or 3 hours, because it is obviously a major health and safety hazard. So especially if you can take a photograph, excuse me, of the empty hole, as it were, there is a space on the reporting website for drain covers missing, and they will respond very quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Merton?
Muted.
I can't hear Celia. Can anyone else hear
No.
Celia?
I can't hear Celia, no. No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, right. Sorry, wrong button. There was a drain down Pod's Lane that I think it was last year, or the year before, they went down and cleared all the drains down Pod's Lane. And I think the guy who did it actually parked over the top of one of them. It's completely, last time I went down there, it was completely covered in mud. So I don't think any water is draining away at all. I can 3-word it if you like and send you the location.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I think that's been reported before. I think somebody else brought it up, but there you go. All right.
Fantastic. Thank you. Anything else to report? No. Okay, thank you. Moving on to Stansted Airport. Again, I don't think there's actually been much information coming out really. So I don't think there's anything to report. Anyone's okay with that? Moving on to policing issues. Well, again, it's been quite quiet within the village with not much going on, which is something to be thankful for. But the police are doing a meeting greet type thing at the Booking Hall Cafe on Sunday. They're going to be there between 10 and 3, so residents can go up and have a chat with them. Some councillors, I think Sarah, myself, Mike, if anyone else is free, want to pop along to see them as well. We'll all be there during, I hope it warms up. But yeah, so yeah, the police are doing a meet and greet type thing on Sunday. Again, other than that, nothing much else to report.
Can I just say they are also doing cycle etching at the same time on Sunday.
Oh,
so
yes.
If you want to spread the word, if anybody's got a new bike, or they certainly are, they are doing that. So
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, I'm just waiting for a reply from the PC as to how I can promote it amongst villagers. Obviously, that's why we haven't circulated it to everyone, because of social distancing. So apologies that I didn't let you all know about it, but we're just relaying the information tonight for you. Obviously, being at the cafe, it will capture not just Rayne residents, but there'll be a lot of people passing through from Braintree and Felsted and beyond as well. So they're normally quite a good event. So yeah, it will just be sort of taking it in turns to give things out and pick up any issues that the police want us to be aware of in the village itself.
Brilliant. Councillor Willis?
I think in a way Sarah's answered it, but there hasn't been any promotion of it, has there really?
no, because we're not sure.
So how will people know that they're there?
Well, I'm hoping that I'll get a response in the next couple of days back from
Okay.
PC Draper, and then I can get the information out to villagers. I know he has been in touch with Clive Stewart from the Neighbourhood Watch, because I had an email from him just advising us of all the different venues. So I've told him that I'm aware, and I'm hoping to promote Neighbourhood Watch. But yeah, I just need James Draper really to come back to us and say how we can push it out to villagers.
Yeah.
And obviously, and it's a busy place anyway, so it will capture a great deal of footfall, although not necessarily Rayne people.
That's
I think,
right.
you know, most Rayne people are like almost avoiding the flitch because we know how busy it is. So, but yeah, as soon as we can. But that is it's planned. It's in the diary for Sunday, and obviously we will promote within the community once we get the go ahead from the police. But other than that, is there any other policing issues? No. Okay, moving on to the clerk's report. I had one note on the clerk's report under 21165, the pothole that I'm emailed Councillor Butland about has been completed. It's been filled. I wouldn't kind of like say it's a great job, but it's not a great big huge hole in the ground anymore, which is probably one of the most important things. But yeah, that's completed. Any other comments on Sarah's report?
Sarah, is it possible to give Essex County Council another nudge about these vandalised gates and stuff? It's on your report for January, but of course it's been outstanding probably since summer of 2019.
Yep, years.
Well, it has been left with Councillor Butland to follow up for us, Karen. So I'm not sure where it is with getting quotes from the insurance companies. I think that was the issue previously.
Okay. Is Councillor Butland still on the call, or?
Yes. He is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that it just seems to have gone to avoid it. I don't know whether it's ECC or whether it's the insurance or what. But certainly, I think I've been in at least 3 times in the last 5 months, like that, since Sarah raised it before Christmas, if I remember right. And as you say, it's been going on some time. I'll give another shout and see.
I know I keep banging on about it, but it really does give a poor impression of the Flitch Way and our village. It is a complete mess.
It does.
And we've even had running groups volunteering to, you know, try and raise money for it, but it hasn't gone anywhere.
Well, we could even, you know, use some of the money that is around for communities to do it. If we can get someone to move their rear end quickly, I'll have another go.
Thank you. It is appreciated. I mean, I know it's difficult when you're trying to get different groups to do different things, but obviously, yeah, if you know there was community funding to you know redo these gates, it then opens a can of worms as to then, because it's on county land, there were county gates, then who insures them? You know, it opens a whole, you know, different like scenario of questions, doesn't it? Unfortunately, so but no.
It's not just that. It's not just the gates; they were vandalised, but there was also a really nice sign that said, you know, Flitch
Way, yeah,
whatever, and that's rotten and just laying on the grounds. I don't know if any of the, you know, the groundsmen could do something with that.
Can I just say that before anything's done, I would advise that extensive photos are taken, because if the insurance company are going to be asked to foot the bill, whether they're done or not, they could just turn around and possibly say, well, they've been fixed, so why should we pay them? I just know insurers will cop out to not pay anything if they can possibly do it. But if it's done and they've got to send an assessor down and they see it all looks nice, then they're going to say what you're talking about. So I really think decent amount of photos need to be taken before anything is undertaken.
There are photos of the damaged of the damaged
Yeah,
signs and
all right.
fences.
Yeah, I mean, we're
the
talking
thing is,
separate issues. There's the vandalised gates, but there's also the signage where the posts are rotten and the signs are just laying on the ground. That can't be an insurance job, surely.
no, it's just a lack of maintenance. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, if it had been left locally, I've no doubt if it was local responsibility, we'd have done it by now. It would have been done. But for whatever reason, Essex County Council just do not seem to be able to do anything. A bit like our road signs.
You just have to recognise that there is more to Essex than just rain.
I realise that.
I mean, one of the things that you might want to think about, because I agree with you, I think if this stuff is local, it gets done. Certainly, I know from other villages who employ local people or local volunteers, they do manage to get things done much quicker if it's possible. And certainly, I'm looking to, well, as I did this year with the grant money, to support communities who want to do things, etc. I think, I just don't think that the money is going to be around in local authorities to be able to do everything. So it's a real challenge for all of us in local government, whether we're at parish level, and I'm a parish councillor like all of you, or whether we're district or county. It's really very difficult.
I accept all that, but the question here was that we've been told it's an insurance claim, and therefore it's got to be done through the insurance claim. We've been told that countless occasions, so it's very difficult for us to put right something that's subject to an insurance claim. So either it is an insurance claim, in which case, why is it taking 2 years? If it's not an insurance claim, then perhaps we can do something locally, yes, but we need to know what it is.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else? Sarah.
Muted.
Sorry, beg your pardon. Yeah, just a quick update on the issue that I think it's on the bottom of the report. It's regarding the replacement street sign for Shalford Road that was damaged possibly by a large vehicle, I'm not sure, but it is underway. It's just the street scene officer at Braintree Council isn't too sure whether they'll be able to position the sign in the previous position or whether it will be elsewhere, but they'll do their best to put it in the most appropriate place they can.
Thank you. Councillor Merton.
Probably it might be a good idea to put the street name Shalford Road on the railings as opposed to right by the... No, just an idea.
No, we're not allowed to erect anything on the railings. They're there for a safety. So if you put anything on them, then that dilutes the safety aspect of them, I believe.
Okay.
And it was the sign is on the other side of the road. It's not that sign. That is in the verge. For those that know, former councillor Begley, it's just before his house on that side of the road. The sign that's been damaged is on the side beside this one public house.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to future meetings. Two-pronged part to this one. The first one is to consider whether we actually do hold our APA. It would have been on the 21st of April, but obviously with restrictions in place, it's not possible to hold the APA in person. One of the guidance is that we're not legally bound to hold an APA this year. So the decision of the council is whether we either postpone it and hold something later on in the year, or actually, as we've already provided a report to the electorate in the village in the form of our report that went out in the Rayne in Focus, councillors may feel that that's enough for this year, and hopefully resume normal timings and meetings next year. That's what we need to decide. Councillor Eldred.
Yeah, just for Scott's point of view, it's annual parish
Oh,
assembly,
yes, sorry. Yes.
not any other acronyms you might come up with, APA, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
And
Yeah,
it's one of the things I found about parish councils when you first joined. The acronyms come up thick and fast, and it's whatever. I'll write you a list.
The annual parish assembly would normally is actually like termed like the village meeting. So we often have the school come along and do what they've been doing at school. We'd often have like a little kind of showcase at the beginning with loads of village groups kind of showcasing what they do and trying to promote them. We might have the police come and do a talk, or the fire officers, or Councillor Euston and Councillor Butland will also deliver a report, as will myself. So it's generally quite a nice meeting, but it's actually, you know, I think it's something very difficult to hold virtually, because actually that is our other option. Actually, can we hold it virtually?
So if I could just explain, the annual parish assembly is the meeting for the village, so it's slightly different to a regular parish council meeting. Normally it's required to be held between the 1st of March and the 1st of June. So some of my counterparts elsewhere in the country have gone ahead and held theirs virtually. Personally, I'm not sure that it would be successful. Other clerks have found it successful, but I think it may depend quite a lot on your age demographic that you normally get along to these meetings. We're fortunate in Rayne that it is well attended, and I'm not sure that it would be as successful if it was a virtual meeting. Obviously, we've been in this scenario now for a year, and we have a number of people that have been able to watch on YouTube, which is great. But I think the annual parish assembly is different because it requires sort of public participation, people to ask questions and that sort of thing. And it can be difficult to manage that in a virtual world, because you don't pick up on body language, and it's difficult for the chair to manage as well to make sure everybody gets their say. So, you know, it's up to you. We can go ahead and hold it virtually online. At the moment, it's booked in the diary for the 24th of April. That is the date that we agreed in the calendar last year. But you may decide to postpone it to a bit later in May, for example, or just hold a different sort of meeting later in the year, or not hold it at all this year. There is no requirement in law to hold it at all, but it's really for you to make that decision how you wish to proceed.
Councillor Eldred.
With my communications hat on, I think with the should we say the unknown at the moment of what's going to happen, because it all relies on the data as we're being told all the time. We don't know what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed right the way up to June the 21st. So if we were going to push it, we might need to push it even further. So then we're into next year again.
Councillor Merton. Can't hear you again.
I think it would be sensible not to hold it this year, because I think as soon as, you know, lockdown's truly lifted, people want to be going on holiday, and I just think it could be just more sensible just to postpone it and do it next year when things are more certain. It's my proposal.
Councillor Agatha.
I personally feel that we either postpone it to, say, October time, or else we just do a report of some sort, because it's not really going to be or accomplish the usual that we try and get from it in holding it in the virtual, or because like we can't have all the school pupils in a virtual meeting with it, so it's all restricts us so much.
Councillor Spencer.
On the training I went on, there was a lot of talk about neighbourhood plans and engaging the community, and that was seen to be a great forum to get that engagement. So as others have said, I think it should be deferred till next year when we can do that kind of thing in person.
Councillor Willis.
Thanks, Joe. I was just going to say something along the same lines, really. Obviously, when we have the annual parish assembly, we normally have quite a lot of representation from other bodies within the village who people can meet as well on the night. We couldn't really do that. There's an awful lot of things we can't really do effectively virtually. I mean, I think we should let it pass this year. You've already sent your chairman's report out to the villagers. I think we should pass this year and try and put a good one on next year.
Yeah, I must admit, I am in agreement with that. We have it's not that we're not an unapproachable parish council. I think people know how to approach us if they need to as well. We're very much out there as well, and so we have reported information. I'm happy to defer to April next year. I'm happy to propose that. Can we have a second, Celia? Thank you. And can we have a vote to see if we're all in agreement with deferring to next year? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So then the next part is obviously what happens from May the 7th onwards. We're lucky that our May meeting is May the 4th, so we can actually get our meeting and our AGM meeting done as well before the Coronavirus Act runs out. So therefore we're looking at what we can do in June. It's whether there's two parts, is either whether councillors are happy to meet in person in socially distanced manner, and it's how we can do that and ensure that we're going to be correct. So I need from you tonight to let me know if you are happy to meet, so we can have a rough idea of whether we could have a quorum committee for June. The next place is the venue. Now, Sarah and I we popped down to the old schoolroom and met with Colin Miles, and he showed us the layout of the old schoolroom, which can fit 16 people. So with a full council and a clerk and our district and county councillors, that would be 14 in the room and barely any room for public. We can't do a booking system for public because public have to be allowed no matter what. You can't pick and choose. And obviously we could stream it, but obviously there'd be no two-way conversation. So that kind of like ruled out the old schoolroom quite quickly, unfortunately. We've also made inquiries to hiring the village hall and the scout hut, but by then they will have their regular hirers back in, and obviously they need all the funds that they can get, so that's completely understandable. With our meeting with Colin this afternoon, he suggested that we actually use the church, and he took Sarah and myself down to the church. Obviously you're all aware that it's had its reordering done, and it was the first time Sarah and I had been in, and it absolutely looks fantastic down there. It feels really welcoming, really warm. They can fit like 21 couples of chairs into the area, and plus if we had to do individual chairs, I think you can kind of like get a bit more. So if we could do June and we want to proceed with June's meeting and we can be quorate for June's meeting, I think we would suggest that we would need to use the church. Sarah is going to double check that we can use church buildings. By law, we know we can't use pubs, so sorry, Scott. But we do believe a church is suitable to have a parish council meeting in, and we can have plenty of room for councillors to be 2 meters apart from each other. There's an induction loop, microphones that we can use. Internet access may or may not be there by the time we possibly need to use it, but I'm pretty certain that Tom might have a dongle that we can use to stream if we need to. So really that is our option. if we decided not to have a June meeting, we would be having very much a bumper meeting with lots of information, lots of stuff being brought forward to May. And obviously we would have to delegation of powers to Sarah to kind of like pay the bills and that kind of thing, like we did this time last year at the beginning of COVID. Sarah, have I covered it all?
Pretty much, Chair. Thank you. Yes, just to add that there is ventilation in the church as well.
Yes.
Colin showed us how the windows can open. We could also open the church main door and not be impacted by traffic noise, which would be the issue with the old school rooms. And also you can't open windows at the old school rooms either. So there is an issue there of ventilation for anybody concerned. Obviously, the government advice is if you're indoors and you're mixing with other people, then to ventilate as much as possible. And the only other thing to add is that it's not illegal to meet virtually after May, but there is a question over whether it's lawful. And my concern would be the audit for the next year, if there would be any issues raised at the audit time. So I prefer that we didn't meet unlawfully virtually after May the 7th, unless any government guidance changes. Yes, we do have a scheme of delegation in place, so I'm comfortable that, you know, bills and that sort of thing can continue to be paid, but we will have the accounts. I've just received the annual return paperwork from our external auditors, and I would normally bring that to you in June to be signed. We managed it virtually last year, but obviously things have changed a little since then. So it will need to be signed in person. And I think the date was the 2nd of July that it had to be returned by. All being well, I hope to be away then, so I wouldn't be at the July meeting. I can obviously ask for extension of time for the annual return to be signed and sent in. I'd prefer not to, because everything should be in order. So, but it's not for me to tell you to meet in June because of that. That is down to you to decide if you're comfortable to go ahead under those circumstances. So it's over to you to make that decision.
Councillor Spencer, you got your hand up?
Oh, sorry, I need to switch that off.
Okay, Councillor Picton then.
My only concern with using the church, from a personal perspective, my grandmother was Jewish. You would not have dragged her into a church, even if it was just for a local meeting, if you could have done that, to be honest, because it went completely against her faith. She always said that if I got married in a church, she wouldn't even come in. So my only concern with using a church is, where do we stand on the discriminatory front? If we're choosing somewhere that's a religious building, there's a risk that we're discriminating against those that have those feelings and therefore wouldn't feel comfortable going into a church. That would be my only concern from personal perspective, having experienced it with my grandmother. I know that she is a good example.
No, that's fine. Councillor Eldred.
I do think, as it's prior to June the 21st, which is supposed to be this wonderful release date, that we're all going to be able to do everything, or hopefully we could do everything again. If you are selective and you don't want to attend the June meeting, I do think that's a bit of pressure on people, to be perfectly honest. I wouldn't want to miss a meeting, but I'm not comfortable at this moment in time to attend a meeting as a group, even within 2 meters or whatever. That's a very personal thing, but I think we've all got our personal reasons. And some people won't have had 1 jab, some people might not have had 2. You know, there's lots of different issues and we don't know. And I think to sit here and say, oh, we'll do it and make a decision, I think is very, very difficult. And I do think it is putting pressure on people.
Yeah, I agree. It's not an ideal situation. We would hope that the June meeting would be the only meeting that would be like this, because obviously if the all singing and all dancing 21st of June happens, the July meeting would happen as normal in the old schoolroom, where we would probably, all be closer and whatever. We just have to look at options for every single.
Chair, can I just interrupt you there as well? It's not just about ourselves, it's about the public. Not all the public would be comfortable going into a church. So although I take on Councillor Eldred's point of view and Councillor Picton's point of view, we've got to have to consider the public, not just ourselves. And I don't think it's the right venue, even though it can cope with us.
Okay, Councillor Agatha.
Chair, I just feel that by that stage we're still not at the stage of being allowing mass gatherings. And although we're not a mass gathering as sorts, it still needs people to have had COVID tests and everything else to go into an enclosed space. And even with them talking of possibly doing this passport system for the COVID, that's not guaranteed in any way, and they don't even know whether they are or aren't going to do it. So it states on the government site that testings will be used to support these openings. So does that mean we're going to have to do COVID tests of everybody that comes?
I must admit the government have put us in such a predicament with this situation by not extending virtual meetings. It really is. I mean, I know Sarah's had quite a few I won't say sleepless nights, but she might say sleepless nights, because it is putting us in such a difficult situation where we have got stuff that we need to resolve and not having the forum to be able to do it. We might get lucky at the High Court on the 21st of April. That's in a way I hope we are, because if we can do June virtually, I think that would be for everybody. We also have a finance meeting in May, which is after the date. So, and obviously with the annual return and what have you, it's important that's going to have to happen as well. So, I take on everyone's, situation and everyone's thoughts. Councillor Davis.
Just a couple of points really from me, Chair. I think, if we're meeting indoors, we've got the public coming in. We're also reliant on the public making sure they haven't got any symptoms or potentially having COVID coming into the building. I'm sure nobody would do it, purposely, but, we've got to be reliant on them doing that. The other point is that some members of the public may have been vaccinated and some haven't. And even if you've had the vaccine, you can still be a carrier. There'll be other members such as myself, who apparently I'm not going to probably have the vaccine till August time, that, are still at risk of catching it. And what happens if somebody during that meeting the next day has symptoms and then tests positive? Does everybody who's been in that meeting then got to isolate? That's something to consider. And just another thing, what happens if we have to give our apologies by 3 p.m. on a day? What would happen, say, if at 5 o'clock, all of a sudden we got a notification we had to isolate and we couldn't attend the meeting? So I think there's a lot of ifs and buts. And the biggest thing about the government doing this big opening up is because a large percentage of the population will have been vaccinated, but there'll still be a high percentage that still haven't and are still at risk. And that, for me, is a concern for both us and members of the public attending.
Councillor Spencer.
It sounds like there's a lot of valid concerns as to why we shouldn't meet in person, but also going back to what Councillor Butland said at the beginning, could we do that kind of thing? We could make the recommendations, still have the virtual meetings, make recommendations, and then the clerk implements those recommendations.
I think it's definitely something that we can look into and kind of see what the advice is that comes from that kind of avenue. Yeah, definitely.
At least we still have our meeting, and we could still meet virtually if we were to go down that road.
I mean, to be fair, Sarah and I have already been looking at what we can bring forward to get passed in May. So do expect a long agenda in May, just to kind of like, so we can tick the boxes and kind of like keep going as we can. Councillor Willis.
Muted, Paul.
That's it. Sorry about that. Start again. I was just going to say, though I'm personally not perhaps so concerned about meeting in person, especially in a church, in the church or whatever. I think the sort of feeling of the meeting suggests that a lot of people are. So I was just like Councillor Spencer, really. I was just really seeing what our options were. If we cannot meet in person, do we have a plan? It sounds to me like we're going to have a plan to get around meeting in person, because I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that by the sound of what's coming out of the meeting.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm guessing. I'm also happy to meet, but I do appreciate.
Yeah, I understand.
That other people don't. I mean, I work in a school and it's as near as normal as you can possibly get, which kind of like then reminds you when you come out of work and it's not. So I can appreciate, the religious aspect. People may not want to meet in the church. Having met with Colin this evening, I think the church have managed quite well with their services, and they are getting quite high footfall in the church. So that, the social distancing in the church is working very well. So it would give us the space, and it would give us the ventilation to carry out a COVID secure meeting, obviously with face masks and all of that. But I still do appreciate that there are people that are not going to want to do that scenario just yet. So if council, I'm getting the feeling that council don't want to meet in person in June. Is that that's basically what you're all saying? Yeah.
We need a show of hands.
Yeah. So give a show of hands who doesn't want to meet in person. Going forward. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. Oh no, that's 5 and 5, isn't it? I can't. So who doesn't want to meet? Put your hands up again. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sarah, I can't count. What's going on? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry, 5, Chair.
It was 5.
Yeah.
And then without, it's 1, 2, 3. It's 5 and 5, isn't it? Because we haven't got Grace here.
Well, you do have a casting vote, Chair.
I know, and that's really difficult because I know that there is half the council that don't want to meet in person. So if I enforce my vote to meet in person,
yeah, you don't have to use your casting vote. I mean,
that's very difficult situation.
You can use your judgment. So. Obviously, we have a scheme of delegation, as you've already referred to, so we can implement that for one meeting. But clearly, it's a moving picture at the moment. We just don't know. It's difficult
to make these kind of decisions as early as we have to do.
Yeah, appreciate that.
We need to know from May how we need to approach May's meeting.
Yeah. And obviously May, then I also need to think about publishing the June agenda. So although it seems quite a way off, there are still things that, we need to put in place ready. As I've already referred to the accounts, that's one big decision that's coming up. So, but there are ways around it with delegated powers.
Even the accounts for delegated powers.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, and that's the the only one, but we would not be the only parish council in this position. So
No.
I
Unless
think
we can sign them off we could sign them off virtually at May like we did previously, but that depends on the auditor being available by then.
Yeah, I think the proposal needs to be to not have an in-person meeting in June. If it then becomes possible that we can meet virtually because the guidance has changed, then basically, obviously, we will just carry on as we are. If the guidance hasn't changed, perhaps we will take a leaf out of BDC's thing, and we'll have a virtual meeting where we will make recommendations and extend the delegation of powers to get the job done. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Yep.
Can I have a show of hands, please? Oh, can I have a second?
Proposer. You're proposing,
well,
Chair?
I just rambled the proposal through. If you manage to get that worded down, you're doing really well. So can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Blipping-Gale, please. And then all in agreement? And we're all in agreement. Thank you all. It's I appreciate it's a really hard one. It's a really hard one. So, but we'll do the best we can and get through, along with every other parish council and district council and whatever in the country. Okay, moving on to policies. We need to review the insurance policy. The paperwork was in the meeting folder. We just need to agree the renewal for the next year, although we are within a 5-year.
Yes, Chair, we had a 5-year plan, yes, but next year is the last year of that plan. So next year will be a major review. For those councillors that are not on the Finance Committee, the insurance documents have been reviewed quite extensively. Councillor Willis has looked into those particularly. So they have been reviewed separately. So it's just the figure changed this year, so the premium has increased by £12 this year, which is fair. As you know, normally I would try to shop around for better prices, but yeah, a reminder that we are in a 5-year agreement, which was the best cost that we could secure at the time.
So can I have a proposer and a seconder for the Councillor Eldred and Councillor Rippingdale? Thank you. Next item is the groundsman's job description. Personnel just tweaked it and updated it, obviously, for the job advertisement that's obviously now live. Is there any questions on that, or are we just happy to propose and second that job description?
I was just going to say, obviously, the job description is essentially twofold. One is to secure the person as it currently is, but the ideal candidate, I did try and scope out, obviously, where we want to get to, which is a second person with sprayer safety, either qualifications or knowledge. Because ultimately our one spraying person, Mark, will retire at some point soon. So we need to keep that going in one shape or form. So that's why it was obviously tweaked in that particular way.
Yes,
Quite happy.
Willis. You're muted.
Yeah, I was just going to say that not retiring too soon, I hope, Trevor.
No. I'm always thinking ahead now. I always have to think ahead.
Yep, succession.
So yeah, so Councillor Rippingdale, were you happy to propose the?
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, as leader personnel, I'm happy to propose this as the ongoing job description.
Councillor Willis, second.
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Obviously, that advert is live. It's on social media. It's on our website. It's on our notice boards. that kind of thing. So if you see the advert on our page and Rayne pages, you know, please try and share it so we can try and get some a good choice of candidate, really.
I was going to ask Sarah, have you contacted the two persons who have prior showed an interest before the advert?
I'm only aware of one, Trevor. Was there two?
Yeah, there was Chris Turner and the person last year. I can't remember the person's name last year.
Yeah, the chap. Yeah, well, the chap Rayne wasn't there, said he was interested.
Yeah, well, the one, yeah, he was a chap who was interested in any volunteering stroke working jobs,
That's right. Yeah.
necessarily being the groundsman, but obviously
Okay.
I can't remember.
So you,
I'm sure I'll have his details.
Yeah, I probably got them in an email thread. So is it your wish that I approach them direct?
Well, I would just highlight the fact that we now have a vacancy, and they're welcome to apply if they want to.
Okay, I'll put that in as an action point for myself then.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, moving on to health and well-being. Mike, this was to do with you. You had an idea, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to pan out, is it, at the moment?
No. If I just quickly run the idea, because you wonder what the heck's on there for. I had an email about a grant that was being offered for COVID, basically, and it was explained that if you could come up with a scheme where you could distribute COVID information in the future and make sure that everybody was okay and everything else. So it was one of those that you had to put a bid in very quickly in about 10 days. So I had a quick thought and thought, what does this village, or what has happened during COVID? And the one thing that we have done very, very well is communicate. We have been in touch with people, and if you ask people what some of their fears are, and you do talk to some of the older people around the village, one of the things was that when people go back to work, they're not going to see as many people as possible. So I thought, right, if there's some money about, why don't we just very simply have a fortnightly coffee morning somewhere where we could display COVID information, usual chat, this, that, and the other, but totally free. I wasn't going to put the Booking Hall cafe out of business, but it was just something where it could be a meeting point, people could come, all that kind of stuff. So I costed it all out for running for 18 months and putting a bid for $3,500, working out that we might use the old school room, one of those things, and generally just an old-fashioned coffee morning where people would not be afraid to come. There was no agenda, there was no religious agenda, there was nothing to it. It was just come and have a cup of coffee and a chat, and we could keep an eye on those people. We could even go and fetch them and do all that kind of stuff. So I put all this in a bid and got turned down. So that was the end of that, but that was the reason for doing it, which I thought, well, it would have been a nice idea, but there we are. We can't do it without the grant, so it's one of those, but it's I still think it's something to think about, that I think it would have been a good vehicle, but there we are. Next time.
Why did they turn it down, Mike? Any reasons?
It didn't fit the bid, which I found very strange, actually, Paul. That's one thing I listed it. I've written lots of bids of my time, and I made sure that I took all the points that they wanted, and I put it into there and actually identified in bullet points, and they came back and said it. Yeah, even Sarah Sarah had a look at the bid before it went off and everything else, and I was surprised. I thought I stood a good chance, to be perfectly honest. And it would have been an easy thing to do, just go out and buy some cakes, buy some coffee, plastic cups, all that. And it would have been something nice to do, but there we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless any of our councillors have got $3,500 stuck up their sleeves that they would like to donate to the Rayne.
At least we tried. That's all you can do, isn't it? Is try. So.
Yeah. Good try.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to circulation and correspondence. Sarah, have we got any?
No, nothing in this month, Chair. Sorry.
Yeah, cool. Brilliant. The ECC minerals waste, the mineral extraction. Obviously, you may have seen that the archaeological dig is happening. You can kind of see it across the fields. Obviously, that's all part of their planning permissions. So again, yes, I think we're just still waiting, and obviously we'll be. I think as time goes on, we'll have to give them a nudge about the community meeting thing, won't we?
Liaison group.
Thank you.
I have contacted them about the name of it as well, but they said they're a bit too busy to consider that at the moment.
Oh.
It does need a formal address.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously we'll wait and see what happens after the dig that's happening now.
Do we know how long dig's going on for?
No, but it looks quite involved, doesn't it?
I mean, I'm surprised there's massive bits of kit running around there. I thought you sort of went around with a trowel and what have you, and a paintbrush when you were doing archaeological digs, but there's great big diggers and dumper trucks and things like that. Anyway.
Yeah. You will see. Okay, I'm moving on to planning applications. And the first one is to install 3 terminal poles with stay wires at land rear of Broadfield Farm. Literally the planning application is just a letter from UK Power Networks. I don't know if anyone else has looked at it on the planning portal. This is just one letter. I think it's to put the wires underground, isn't it, that actually go over the land. So I don't suppose there's actually much that we can
I think there are new poles up there, actually new poles out of the ground, aren't there?
Yeah. So I don't believe
mean,
there's
I'm
much
not sure there's much we can do about it if it involves UK Power, can you?
No.
I'm pretty sure they get their own way if they want to do it.
Councillor Merton?
I would imagine it might be just to supply electricity for when they do actually start excavating.
Yeah.
You know, they need to run the excavators, not just the tractors.
It really isn't very explanatory what's on the planning portal.
Well, that's
it really is this one letter from UK Power. So
that's probably purposeful. That's probably done for a reason, I would suggest.
I believe you can't really do much more than no comment.
No. Not really.
Other councillors? No.
I would say no comment from us. It's basically for 3 new poles to provide electricity to the site.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless it's going to actually cause an obstruction, I can't see any problem with it.
No. So
they're going to be digging a big hole in the ground anyway.
So can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Merton and Councillor Rippingale. Thank you. Moving on to the removal of existing conservatory and erection of a rear extension and loft conversion and addition of dormer window to front elevation at Broadfield Bungalow, Dunmow Road. Any comments on this planning application?
Looks very nice.
I must admit, I know when I looked at it, I thought that is
looks really nice, actually.
Not one of those kind of like contentious planning applications. So can I suggest no comment?
No comment.
Thank you. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Councillor Eldred, Councillor Davis. And then the internal and external refurbishment of the old bakehouse outbuilding located within the curtilage of the main house at 7 the Street. It looks like it does need some loving and tender care, doesn't it? If people looked at the photos on the planning portal. So obviously it's a listed building, so it's going to be done sympathetically anyway. So I'm happy to propose no comment.
Yep.
And a seconder for Councillor Willis.
Chair, just a quick question.
Yeah.
With something like this, I can only look as that as a real improvement of the building that's there. It clearly needs some TLC. It is a listed building. would we perhaps consider actually supporting or putting a positive comment on something like that, because they're actually, you know, improving an old listed building and bringing a bit of life back into it?
It's within our jurisdiction to do so. Yes, if we actually specifically would like to support the application, we are within our right to do that. Would councillors like to do that? Yeah. Okay, we'll support that one then, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. And then the applications to note, we have an erection of a single story rear extension at Fairy Hall Lane, which is where the extension will extend beyond the rear wall of the original house by 6 metres, with a maximum of height of 3.7 metres and 2.55 metres to the eaves of the extension. So there's that one to note. And then for information, the permitted development rights at Longfield Station Road, that had its development rights removed. The application at Rayne Lodge Farm for the details of the reserve conditions, they were withdrawn. The application of certificate for lawfulness for a proposed garden room at Old Chapel House Street was granted. This one's a bit contentious. The conversion of the existing garage into a habitable space at 14 Vaughan Close, this had actually been granted before the parish council was able to provide consideration. Sarah has raised this with BDC as to why this happened. Did we get a reply?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I had a very apologetic reply from the planning officer. It was an oversight on their part. As councillors know, if a consultation period ends before the date of the forthcoming meeting, then I normally request and am granted an extension of time to comment. So it's purely an oversight on this occasion.
And then the last one, the single story rear extension at 18 New Road, that was refused. And then moving on to the planning appeal, also known as Brook Green Junior, that starts on the 20th of April, which we haven't really had much information about still. I'm in the process of writing the parish council submission to the public session, which we don't know when it's actually going to be. But obviously, the likeliness is that I will be at work and won't be around to be able to deliver that submission. So really need somebody to step up and read. It literally is just reading the submission that is written. Often the inspector asks you to skip parts, but it's not that long yet. But often about 17, 19 pages. Like, for example, the school road one took me about half an hour to deliver at that planning appeal. So it is that kind of thing. But unless we have an evening session, which we did get with the big Brook Green, but I doubt we're going to get it this time. But is there anyone willing to be around? Thank you, Mike. Councillor Willis as well.
I was just going to ask as well, have you any idea on how long this is likely to, what the extent of it is? I've got a feeling it was just one day.
It says it will last longer than more than one day. And you do kind of like think, really? Yeah. I don't know, actually. It's all been a bit quiet on the action group front as well. So we need to kind of touch base with what's happening there too.
I think, yeah, the school road appeal, which was a similar size, wasn't it?
Yeah.
As in 150 dwellings, this is 120-ish, I think.
Yeah.
And that went on for just over a week, didn't it? Because they don't meet on a Monday. And then obviously, as it's a virtual inquiry, the inspector doesn't like to keep people too long on screens. So it's sort of a shorter day, condensed more than an in-person appeal. So it could well last, say, about 7 working days.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's yeah, school road was, I think it was 3 1 week for the next, and we really pushed to get it finished on the Friday so we wouldn't have to go over. So I think it'd be quite handy, Sarah, actually on Thursday when you're back at work, whether we could touch base with the inspectorate and see if we can find out some information and find out if there's a timetable, because we're the 6th of April now, and this starts in 14 days time.
14 days.
There's no timetable or anything, is there? No order of
service.
And actually, in the fact that the parish council does want to be there and deliver and deliver a
we're only
statement
delivering
as well.
we're only delivering our statement, aren't we? We're not got section
Rule 6.
Rule 6 status, have we? No.
No.
We're just reading our
decided not
statement
to.
on.
Mm.
But it would be handy if if there was anyone about to watch proceedings. I might try and be able to dip in and out of it at work, but obviously it's
I mean, I can watch. I'm happy to watch some of it, but I mean, if we could spread it amongst ourselves for observation, if you like, and notes like we did before, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. And I say I'm in the process of writing our submission at the moment, so whoever reads it out will just need to read. So
I was really heavily involved in the school road and the original Brook Green, but unfortunately I shall be on holiday when the hearing starts. But if it's still going on my return, I'm more than happy to take notes and chip in once I get back.
On a holiday? A holiday?
Holiday, yeah.
What's one of those?
And a Fausted.
yeah, so I think we'll either we'll email out about this or WhatsApp groups to see who's available when and where, if that's okay. But yeah, Mike, thank you very much. And normally it'll be near the beginning as well. The public part, so it's usually one of the first or second sessions. So, but yeah, we'll see if we can find out some more information, Sarah, Thursday. That'd be great. Okay, moving on to the ashes walls. Hopefully we can finally get this sorted and put to bed. Have you all read the notes of the meeting that we had with the church since our previous meeting? It was a very productive meeting. That it was myself, Paul and Mike representing the parish council, and Sarah was there as minister, and we met with Colin and Graham, who are both church wardens, and obviously Roman, who's curate at the church at the moment. So obviously the discussion last time was very much from the parish council's point of view on not insisting that interment has to happen at the ashes walls, and that's what caused us to need to have had the meeting with the church, because actually legally that can't actually happen. They have to be able to have interment happen within the grounds of the churchyard, but there is discretion, and that was made abundantly clear with Colin. And I think in the emails that I sent you out, I sent out what the Church of England's criteria is, and there is discretion. So at the meeting with the PCC, we explored what discretion meant, what it's meant in the past, and what it means going forward. There always has been discretion. There has never been any discrimination as to who can go on the wall or who can be interned within the confines of the wall. And there has been discretions on occasion with circumstances that have caused that to happen. So So, for example, we have 100 places on the wall, but there's 90 or so plaques on the wall at the moment out of 100. And I think Roman said there's about 72 interments. So there hasn't always been an interment because there has been discretion. The discretion is at the incumbent of the church. So at the moment, it's always been Roman recently, and I think it always has been Roman, to be fair, in more recent years. And I think it's a process that he's found liberating, but also a burden as well, because obviously there's times when there haven't been ashes for certain reasons. There's numerous stories that Roman can tell, and he can almost tell you, with heartfelt sincerity as to, who's on the wall and why they're on the wall and who's interned and who isn't. So the main thing is the discretion is there, and it has been, and it's agreed that it will always will be. Obviously, the church will be not advertising, interviewing for a new incumbent soon. And this was spoken about, obviously, that they will make sure that the new incumbent will be of the same mind as we are at this time going forward. So that's reassuring. And I've lost my thread now. But basically, I mean, it's to come back to council and to ensure that you are happy with the situation or the process that we have now. We'll carry on. And I think what we wanted, or what was really happening anyway, with where there is that slight indiscretion happens. Mike and Paul, you were there too. Is there anything I've kind of like missed off or you'd like to add before we open it up? Councillor Willis?
Muted,
yes,
Paul.
You're still muted.
I was like 1 minute. Yes, I was going to say I thought it was a very nice meeting and a very good meeting. I really felt that Roman was very sincere in what he said and what he meant when he said he used discretion. And I also, one of the things I thought about, well, this whole system has worked very well for nearly 20 years without even coming to our attention, if you like. So I came away from the meeting actually feeling very comfortable with it, because I actually think it's something that the village needs, and there's an awful lot of people in the village who would welcome the opportunity to be on those walls, and I don't think anybody who wants to be on those walls will be excluded. So I am absolutely comfortable that I came away from that meeting feeling that we were on the same wavelength. In fact, it was a very consensual meeting, I felt personally.
I mean, there's never been any discrimination, and there never will be. Yes, the Church of England is, is the Church of England, but equally they cannot turn away anyone from any denomination wanting to go on those walls if they want to.
I mean, could I just add for further that I was going to say is that it's just not possible to actually say put on the thing, oh, and by the way, there doesn't have to be an interment, to do this. But what I'm saying is that if there was a real situation where, for whatever reason, the interment wasn't possible or couldn't be done, I think Roman would use, or the incumbent to come, hopefully, would use discretion. But we can't guarantee it, but we can't, and neither can we actually go out there up front and say, look, everybody, there's just no condition there. But I think there is a lot of movement in that condition, if you like. So I felt comfortable with it personally.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Eldred.
The one thing I got from it was that both sides were very empathic to the other's concerns, and it was very evident that the PCC had watched our meeting, so they'd seen the passion that had come out of the meeting, where people wanted that no internment, that whatever, and I think they were probably a little bit taken aback by the passion that we actually wanted to be involved with the walls, because that's what they really want. They were really so pleased that the parish council wanted to be, actually involved in 2 more walls. And I just thought it was I agree with Paul. It was a fantastic meeting. I came out of there thinking you've got 2 groups in the village who actually want the same thing and have worked really well to come up with something. And this word discretion seemed to solve everything.
And also they did agree that if there was, we could form a small group, or there could be a parish council representative. So when a case came up that required discretion, because it's actually quite a burden for the person making that decision as to what to do. And we suggested, could a member of the parish council be part of those discussions? We wouldn't be part of the decision making, but we could also be there to sound off of and to put another point of view across, which I think is equally important in representing everyone's wishes as well, and that was well received as well. So if there is a case it's a little bit muddly, they're happy to for the PC to have a seat at the discussion.
Chair,
Martin?
Chair, can I just say that my interpretation of reading that those notes was that we'd like to think that the incoming priest will be sympathetic, but we also have to bear in mind that there are those out there that might not be so willing to bend the rules, so shall we say, or be so sympathetic. And do you think that Roman is, he's obviously has a lot of influence, and he would sort of be able to bridge that gap should that arise?
Yes, definitely. Roman took on the role in Philip Meader's time. Mainly, I think, just because the interments were just being dotted all over the place, and Roman wanted it a little bit more, a little bit more, or a bit more tidier.
Yes.
So, they do know exactly where every single interment is. So I don't think, or hopefully, a new incumbent isn't going to come in and say, right, I think they will be taking on the wishes of what's happened in the village for the last 20 years and the work of what Roman has done in the area. So I think hopefully we would be okay. Councillor Davis?
It's clearly, Chair, a very sensitive subject, and obviously it's something that a lot of people are very passionate about. But we're talking about reliant on someone who we're involved with at the moment. But what happens when they don't have a future involvement and the next person doesn't share their views? What protection have we got against that? Because, discretion isn't a legal binding term. It's very open-ended. And what might be Roman's discretion and his views, the next person who comes along, or even the person after that, it might be very different. I think we just have to just consider that in our decisions.
Councillor Willis?
Well, I think you can consider it, but I think what we have to accept is we're not going to get cast iron guarantees. The walls are in the churchyard at the end of the day. We can't get cast iron guarantees. We get discretion. But what I still lean on the fact that we've never had an issue. I don't think anybody on this parish council in the last 17 years has actually raised a query on it. So if you get my meaning, nobody's actually said in the last 17 years, oh, that's a problem.
Councillor Picton?
I do think there's a stated case there as well, because there is a lot of plaques on that wall where people are not interred. So there is a little bit of, should we say, leeway for discussions that it's happened already. So, and I think that's where Roman was certainly coming from, and Colin was.
Councillor Picton.
So my biggest concern, I think, is, I mean, we're going to be spending what, nigh on about 12 grand to build these 2 walls. I understand. Sorry,
not 12 grand.
8.5.
But it's still an
8.5,
awful lot of money that we're putting in of parish council money without any guarantee whatsoever. Discretion is fine, but you're dealing with somebody as an unknown entity, and you cannot guarantee that until you've at least had a conversation with that person. Would there be maybe a case for postponing until the new person is in place, and then revisiting this when they're in place and we can hold those conversations and have a little bit more surety that the money that we're investing is actually going to be used in the way the parish council hopes that it will be?
Councillor Willis, do you want to reply?
Well, I just wanted to say, really, Chair, we've already resolved to build these walls.
We have. And tonight's discussion is just to reaffirm, because of the discussion we had at the previous parish council about interment, was just to literally just to clear up this scenario. Could we wait to the next incumbent? We don't really know. I think the advertisement is out now, but it runs quite, it's not an easy, quick process. And actually, we're lucky that that our church has been allowed to advertise for a new incumbent, because actually we could have quite easily have not had one and not had a church at all. So it's, I suppose we're lucky that we are in the situation we're in. Councillor Spencer, sorry, you've had your hand up for ages, sorry.
Yeah, just the paper that you submitted, the paragraph before conclusion, it says, Colin assured everyone that the new parish priest to be interviewed later in the year would be encouraged to exercise the same levels of discretion and empathy, blah, blah, blah. Could we get a letter from the church just reaffirming what's been discussed in the meeting? And we will, of course, continue to exercise the same levels of discretion and empathy. I know it's not a guarantee. I know it's only discretion. But as others have said, we are reliant on all the people who are in situ at the moment. And, you don't want to think that everybody's going to leave tomorrow. But in the, from both the parish council and the church, the people at that meeting may not be there. At least we would have something on file to show, we represent our village, we've raised concerns, we've had a good meeting, and this was the assurance that came out of it. Is it possible that they could write us a letter like that?
Well, that was the idea of these minutes. That's why we had Sarah there as a minute taker, because this is the problem before, is that there has been no paper trail, there has been no documentation. So this is why this meeting was minuted and has been recorded in this way. So we do
all
have
signed off on the minutes of that meeting. Everyone who was in attendance has signed off on those minutes. Yes. Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Councillor
the church has agreed them. Yeah.
Chair, my thoughts are we don't really need to think about the incumbent as such, because in the long run, the incumbent's not necessarily going to be there for the life of the walls. The walls are going to very definitely far outlive the length of period that the incumbent's in situ. So, and so, okay, we may delay it by a year waiting for the next incumbent to come in, but they may only be there 4 years and then they're gone and we have another incumbent. So that incumbent could think differently again.
Precisely. And I think that even the bishop, I think, has appreciated what we have in Rayne. It is very what's the word I want? Unusual, unique. I think. Unique. Where you have the parish council and the PCC working together towards a common goal, and it has worked well for the last 17 years. And obviously, what we want to do is to further that and to be able to create the place for this for this to carry on happening. So basically, I'm asking now is actually councillors, are you still happy to agree to build the project? Going on from the minute references from the previous meeting where we did agree the tender, and we did agree the purchase of the bricks to proceed with this project for the village. I mean,
Well,
I propose that we do, and I'm a firm believer in what we're doing is for the village, and I do believe we do have everything in place, and agreements and a good working relationship with the PCC to move forward and get this project done.
if that's a resolution, I'm prepared to second it.
So can I have a vote, please, on everyone who is in agreement with proceeding with the project, please? Can I ask why people aren't willing to support it then?
I just don't feel comfortable that we're investing a lot of money without a surety that it's going to be dealt with in the way that we would hope it to be. We've just got we'll hopefully carry on in the same stead that we have done previously. I respect that's been done previously, and I do hope that that is the case. But it's a lot of money, of villagers' money, and for me personally, to justify to someone else in the village that we've spent all that money for them, I would want them to have a bit more protection than just a we hope. That's my concern. I think they're a brilliant idea. Please don't get me wrong. I think we should have them. I think they're a brilliant thing and we really, really should need them. But I'm not comfortable how it stands.
That's fine. Councillor Willis?
I was just going to say, we're not going to have them now, are we? So it's
it was 5, wasn't it? Was a vote was 5 for it, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think it was 4, but the point is that the people now will not have they will not have the benefit of having those.
5.
Okay, well I don't know.
I can't see everybody on the screen. How many did vote in favour?
Okay, can people put their hands up if they're voting in favour?
I counted 5.
I counted 5. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, sorry, 4, I didn't see 5. Karen at the bottom. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
So therefore, I'll use my casting vote to proceed with the project then. Finally, we get there. Sarah, are you happy with that? Minuted, yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to the environment grounds update, please, Trevor.
Can I excuse myself, please, Chair?
Yes, of course you can, Paul. Nice to see you.
You.
See you again soon.
You too.
See you, Paul.
Bye, everybody.
Yes, grounds. As we obviously know, Mark is working by himself at the moment fairly successfully. He has done a good job of always keeping on top of the bins and doing a lot of the verging hedges, etc. The key thing over the next few weeks will obviously be the spraying of Oak Meadow, the thistles in particular, which he's already geared up for, both in terms of signage and relevant bits of equipment. As some people may already recognise, I've been helping Mark by doing some mowing with the mower. I'll proceed to keep on doing that until such times as we have a new incumbent in role, which we are hoping at some point to be in the start of the summer. But obviously that's all still TBC at the moment. So yes, we're basically ticking along. We're not firing on all cylinders ultimately.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I have seen you about on the lawnmower, so yeah, you're doing well.
Too well in some places.
Yeah. Yeah, never mind. Obviously, also we've set up the no cutting verge signs, haven't we, on Century Bridge?
Oh yeah, that was yeah. Sorry, I've totally forgot about that. That was me doing a dust raid last night. At the request of Sylvia, she wanted us to have another go at trying to prevent Century Bridge being cut during the growing season. So I proceeded to erect 10 signs with a little bit of string between each other, in the hope that the person who has been doing it is persuaded not to over this coming season. We'll obviously see if that materialises or not.
We'll do a Facebook post as well on social media and try and spread the word as well.
The principal reason is that was a very good verge for very rare orchids, and has actually decimated the population along that particular verge.
Yeah. Brilliant, thank you. Village Hall update, Celia?
Muted.
I'm muted. I'm just talking to myself. Yeah, a few things actually. Just looking on my text. A few things. We've got 2 new sinks in the ladies' toilets with magic taps, or what do they call them? They call them, you know, you just put your hand underneath and the water comes on, take your hand away, it goes off. So we've got 2 new sinks there, which is quite good. We've got a new sound system, which is permanently fitted. The youth football club are back and playing. And from the 12th of April, the children's karate and dance groups are back. And the one thing I have been asked to ask Sarah, the council clerk actually, is about domestic abuse people. She said, what's supposed to happen if a domestic abuse victim turns up outside your hours? And particularly if there's the table tennis or people are there, or the higher of a CIP office is there. Is there
well, the doorbell, yeah, the doorbell has a direct connection to my phone.
Right, okay, I'll tell them that. Okay, that's fine.
There was somebody rang the doorbell the other day, and there was nobody there I didn't think there was anybody there apart from somebody crying. So I nipped over, and I happened to be duty councillor, so I went over, and it was just a child being distressed. But yeah, bless. It's quite a good system, so it covers, cover all round.
Okay. Obviously, we have got the duty councillor system set up, so there's somebody on duty at all times to be able to be contacted.
Yeah.
Out of Sarah's working hours.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That was just one question that they asked.
Yeah. Another thing, I was going to add is that Sarah's back to working in the office from Monday next week. Yeah. Yeah. But we're having no visitors to the CIP yet until May 17th or whatever the next release date is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on to telephone box. We was hoping to do a shortlist poll, weren't we, for what its uses could be. Yes, Paul.
Can't hear you, Paul.
You're muted.
Personally, I'm still going for the book exchange.
Yeah, I know
it's not very original, but there you go.
I know lots of people will go on about a defibrillator, but we haven't got it connected to mains powers anymore. So that's an issue. The idea was obviously to try and do some community engagement and to try and perhaps do a Facebook poll, or possibly even in the Rayne Focus, but then as to what people would like it to be. Is there any kind of like, other than like a book exchange, is there any other ideas that anyone would like to put forward to be part of the poll, or do we just go for a book exchange?
Go for a book exchange.
Yeah, book exchange.
Just go straight to a book exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Councillor Agata?
I'm quite happy with book exchange. My only thoughts are whether we can incorporate a sort of general information facility in there as well in relation to the village. so that it almost serves two purposes, but provides somewhere that we can actually provide information to villagers.
Well, definitely, because the Felsted one has got a map of its PROWs in it as well.
Idea.
So yeah, we can definitely, you know, probably have perhaps a small information area along with books. So yeah, I'm happy to propose a book exchange stroke, you know, information
center, yeah.
So then we can't know how to fit it out. Can I have a seconder for that, Councillor Willis? So yeah, you know now what you're working towards, Paul. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say actually that I do know the weather's changing and hopefully we can get out a bit more. I do intend to get the painting done and things like that. I thought in terms of the interior, we could probably buy some a couple of 3-foot by 6-foot bookcases. I mean, there's loads of them on Marketplace and that. Spray them up red or whatever, and then just fit them into the telephone box, rather than go for actually racking it out. I think that would work quite well. You know, the sort of thing. Funnily enough, there's quite a lot of 6-foot by 3-foot bookcases that appear on Marketplace or whatever for a tenner, and a couple of those would do the job, quite frankly. You know.
Yeah, as long as we're efficient with the space and, you know, you utilise.
Yeah, obviously, you've got very limited space because they're only 3-foot square, aren't they?
Yeah.
But so you can't really get huge amounts of stuff in. You can get a couple of bookcases in there on 2 walls, and you obviously use one of the bookcases for your information and puts things like that on, and local information and your public right of way stuff as well. But I mean, I do hopefully, if we can get it just cleaned up now and then get the paint on and what have you. I do need to buy there's some spray apparently you can spray out them in, because obviously the masking of that telephone box is quite difficult because there's hundreds of panes of glass, unfortunately. But there is some stuff you can buy which you just spray onto the glass, then paint, and then it just peels off the glass afterwards, so it goes hard and just comes off. So that's what I intend to use. I mean, there will be a little bit of expenditure, but I'm thinking with the bookcases, a little bit of this masking spray, we're probably talking 30-40 quid that we might have to spend to just finish it off.
There is money in the budget, so.
Yeah, there is money in the budget.
Community project, could we put something on Facebook saying, you know, if any villagers have got bookcases or the products that we need? I've seen other villages do that, go out to their residents.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we could ask. I mean, I'll get the exact measurements so to make sure that they're.
Because it's actually fitting it in, actually, that we can actually utilise the corner where two bookcases meet. They need to overlap, so you can kind of like use all that space as well, isn't it? Otherwise, you don't want to have wasted space.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, we'll need a proper measure, I think, but you know, it's roughly. It's about 8 foot tall and 3 foot wide, essentially. Yeah. So, but obviously, because you're going to use 2 walls, one is naturally narrowed down because you're losing a foot off one side, aren't you? So, I need to do the exact measurements, and by all means, we can put something out on the social media to say, "Have you got such a thing going for nothing?" You know. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
And also to monitor what goes in there book-wise, as you
probably
saw when
I. That's right. And that is the other thing. That's right. You know, going forward, we're going to have to. I mean, I've got an initial book stock that was given to me by a bookshop in Colchester, so I've got quite a few books already that can go in there. I could pretty much fill it up, I reckon.
Well, the post office lady at the post office, Annie, said to me, "Did I know anybody who wanted some books, because they've got lots of books?"
Yeah, so we do. Yeah.
I did sort of say, can you hold on to them, because that's what we're hoping to do. But I don't know if she will or not. But
I mean, there was a lot of people on social media who seemed to like the idea of not our idea. We didn't put the idea out there. They just come up amongst themselves and said, wouldn't it be a nice thing to have, you know, a book exchange in Rayne, and located where it is, it's ideal, really, isn't it? Up by the Booking Hall Cafe and that, you know. So we will, but somebody will have to manage it. And I was going to suggest Grace might want to do that, as it's right outside her front door, you know. But somebody will have to manage it in terms of content and keeping it tidy generally, because I think they do tend to get a bit ramsacked if you're not careful. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I'll be tempted to go down there and sort it into alphabetical order.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Another job.
Okay, moving on to the nature reserve.
Yeah, well, I haven't got much of an update at the moment, really. I need to.
That's fine.
To be perfectly honest with you, it needs another walk round, and that's something we need to organise probably over the next few weeks. Now we're allowed to get in groups of 6 again. We can have another walk round, have another look at it, because I've been down there quite a lot, as it happens, over just walking around and looking at it and clearing it out and bits and trying to keep it reasonably tidy from the party goers and what have you. But every time I look around, I think, well, it really lacks definition. Do you know what I mean? It just looks like a field, basically, doesn't it?
Mm.
It hasn't got. It needs to be planned out in some way. I get the feeling every time I talk to Roger and Sylvia that they're not. I'm not sure that they obviously they know about it in minute detail, every single plant and everything else. But I suppose I'm thinking more in terms of a little bit more expansive, in terms of displays and things like that, and landscaping a little bit more. But I don't know. Perhaps that takes it away from its natural environment more. I don't know. But I'm having trouble visualizing what it is we actually want to finish up with in terms of a field, if you like. So if anybody's got any ideas, I mean, the idea of putting, I mean, I did mention to Roger about putting down, obviously some wildflower areas and things like that, which I thought would be quite a nice idea. But he's quite right in a way. We have got a massive rabbit problem down there. I just don't know how to get on top of it, to be honest with you. Because the guys who did the Village Hall one apparently caught 4 rabbits, I think, in the end. There's about 400 down there. So, there wasn't overly successful, I don't think, in exterminating the rabbits. So, I don't know how we get on top of those. But anyway, it's an ongoing thing. It's a long-term project. We've made a start. The ponds are cleared out. I've still got to do the reeds in one, but I really need a boat, a little rubber boat, if anybody's got a dinghy or something like that. It's too deep for my weight, as the one at the bottom.
Okay.
But they're cleared anyway. All the rubbish is out of the ponds at the moment. Brilliant. For the time being.
Yeah,
for another week or two. Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
somebody will be there and chuck something in again soon, I no doubt.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Doing a great job. Okay, moving on to the finance. Obviously, you all have the list of payments on your agenda. Can I have a proposer and a seconder for the payments, please? Councillor Eldred and Councillor Rippingale. Thank you. Karen, are you now a fully fledged signatory?
Yeah, although I haven't had any instructions on what I need to do, but yeah, I am all signed up.
So are you about tomorrow morning?
Yes.
Do you want to give it a go tomorrow morning? I can put you there is instructions in the actually they're in the finance committee folder, which Karen probably hasn't got access to. I'll send you the instructions.
Yeah.
They're photo shot, so you'll be able to have a go. So you can log in and have a go. I'll be about tomorrow morning. So you can give me a ring and say help. But Mike managed to do it all fine for the first time and what have you. It wasn't that difficult, was it, Mike? So
yeah, it'll be after 9:30 if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Yeah.
No worries.
And then the second one, either if I help you log in and then I can do the second one myself or what have you, but we'll converse. But yeah, cool. Give it a go, Karen, and see what happens. But I'll send you the fold that file with the instructions. Then you can have your first attempt at doing it. To note, the bank reconciliation at the end of February was £42,327.62. And obviously Sarah will be working on the end of year accounts, which is her favourite time of year, where she gets us all balanced up for the year. Okay, moving on to meetings and training. Councillor Eldridge, you've attended a couple of things, haven't you, lately?
Yeah, I went on a funding webinar, which was quite interesting. It was just run by a company that basically found grants everywhere, and it was quite amazing how much money there is out there. You've just got to find it, you've got to address it, you've got to be very cute of how you do it. This company charged £1,000, but one of their things was that they did suggest if you wanted large amounts of money, that parishes could get together. So if you wanted, for saying three new tractors or something, if three got together, this company who charged £1,000 would split that between the three parishes, and whatever. I think it's all to do with how much money you want to raise, but they are a very, very successful company in raising money from lots and lots of different places that we probably would never ever think of. So it's, if we ever needed that kind of money, it certainly is worth it, and that was very good, and I passed it on to everybody anyway. So there we are.
Thank you. You did your councillor training as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I've done my councillor training. I'm fully fledged.
Woohoo! And then, yeah, as mentioned earlier on in the public forum, the part of the reordering part of the church for their grant was to create a heritage trail, and they wanted to present to councillors. So if any of you are available next Tuesday evening, and you're not attending the communications and data committee meeting, if you want access to it, let me know, because obviously you can watch as well. Obviously they were invited to present at this meeting, but it was like too much of an open forum still for them, because they're just kind of like practicing at the moment and just getting ideas as well. So that's happening next week. So yeah, if anyone does want a meeting link, let me know. Any other meetings, Sarah?
Thank you, Chair. Just to note that I've got a meeting, a Flitchway meeting with Country Parks, Friends of the Flitchway, Great Notley Clark, on the 15th of April. If anybody has anything they wish to raise at that meeting, let me know, please.
The gates and the signs.
Really? That wasn't on my list at all.
Hadn't got on your list? You sure? Okay, that's brilliant, everybody. So the date of the next meeting is another Tuesday, because of the bank holiday, Tuesday the 4th of May. Any items for the agenda need to be by Sarah by the 22nd of April, so we can formulate probably what is going to be quite a bumper meeting. Just so, unless we've had guidance change before then. So I thank everyone for attending tonight's meeting. Thank you to those that have watched on our YouTube channel. Can we stop the live stream and pause the recording? And good night to all our viewers.